One Piece. The First Family. Chapter 21. After Minato heard Zoro's words, he knew that she would not go to fight with Kenpachi brother, which was very sensible. Of course she wasn't kidding, brother Kenpachi was the most terrifying, and he would show no mercy at all. She said with a smile. My brother is dressed in a very special way. Brother Ulquiorra has short black hair, a bit of fair skin, a green tear mark on his face, and is wearing white clothes with black bottoms. His knife is stuck in his waist. As for my Aizen brother, he has short brown hair, brown eyes, looks very gentle, wears a pair of glasses, and wears a death-defying uniform, which is a white long-sleeved haori, with a black shirt underneath. Quote. He also wears a zanpakuto on his waist. After Zoro heard it, he was indeed very eye-catching. If these two people met, they would definitely be able to recognize them. After all, we already know what they look like and what they are wearing. He hoped to fight them. Before that, of course, I worked hard to improve myself. If they are stronger than the little girl, then the sword must be very powerful, but I don't know to what extent it will be. We have to speed up our training now. He looked at Luffy. Luffy, let's leave, go to the next town, and buy some exercise equipment. He must increase his training volume. For example, holding a barbell that is more powerful than a sword can improve the strength, speed and power of your sword swing. And these can only be bought in large towns, and Kokoja village is obviously just a small village, so it is impossible to have them. He couldn't wait to go. These two people are his next targets. As for Hawkeye, of course, he can't see their backs yet. I am really too weak. After Luffy heard Zoro wanting to leave, he looked at Nami reluctantly. Finally, he sighed and walked towards the back mountain coast that Nami mentioned. Zoro immediately followed. Usopp looked at Nami and knew that their futures were on different paths. After that, he had to take care of his navigator responsibilities. Fortunately, he still knows a little bit, at least to the extent that he won't capsize in the sea. And Sanji was even more reluctant to part with it. If Miss Nami was missing, then half of the fun of going to sea would be lost. Such a life is so unfortunate, and the most important thing is that this little girl actually wants to marry a beautiful girl like Nami to her father. Then Nami might only be a second wife or a concubine after she gets married. This is disrespectful to beautiful women. So even against Nami's wishes, he still extended the invitation again. Miss Nami, do you really not think about it? Nami pouted and said. Forget it, I can't be a pirate. She still couldn't get over that hurdle in her heart, even if her goal was to take risks and explore the sea. He also couldn't accept the title of pirate. Minato had a very happy face. As long as Sister Nami doesn't become a pirate, she can take it back to her father. His father will definitely praise him for being very sensible. Sanji clearly noticed the little girl's excitement. This little girl must be playing bad tricks on Miss Nami, she warned Nami. Miss Nami, please don't marry this guy's father. Nami waved her hand and said. I will handle this myself. Just follow your companions. Sanji looked at the few guys who had walked away and had no choice but to follow them. I want to go to sea. Since Nami doesn't want to be a pirate, he can't force him. Forcing is disrespectful to a woman. At this time, Nuo Chigao and Ajien came over. Nokigao looked at Nami and asked. Nami, have you said goodbye to your previous friends? She still thinks it's better for Nami not to become a pirate. If she does, she will be wanted by Marine. Naturally, my sister doesn't want her to do such dangerous things. Besides, it's hard for Nami to accept being called a pirate. After all, what happened to Belmere was deeply imprinted on her heart. It was a kind of pain, and it was also a pain in her own heart. Nami nodded. I've made it clear to them, and I won't be on the same side with them from now on. Aegean's face was full of happiness. Let's have a party tonight. Take back Aaron's money from us. Use the money to hold a banquet to celebrate the liberation of the village. Aaron has been defeated. At this time, other villagers rushed over, also cheering and applauding. After Aaron is defeated, their lives will return to peace. They will no longer be in the same state where they were left to their own devices and their lives were in danger at any time. All of this is of course thanks to this little girl. It was she who incredibly killed Captain Aaron and the main cadres, so they were able to be in such a happy mood now. After the villagers took out the money from Aaron's castle, They took back their part of the village, and the rest was later returned to other villages, because other villages were also brutally ruled. They cannot take this part of the money with peace of mind. Then Aegean led the villagers to start cooking, killing pigs and chickens, cooking sumptuous food, and holding a big party in the evening. The banquet lasted until midnight, with the villagers drinking happily and telling each other their feelings and longing for the future. Aegean was sitting alone in a corner, drinking wine, with tears on his face. If only Belmir were still alive. What a pity. But now that the dragon pirates have been defeated, Eren and those cadres have been arrested and seriously injured, and there is no fear of them escaping. Belimir's revenge has been avenged. Nokigao came over. Looking at Aegean like this, he knew that she was thinking of sad things, and the one who made him sad most was probably his mother. She looked at Aegean and said, "Thanks to you these years, the village would have been destroyed by Eren long ago. These fishmen not only burned, killed and looted, but also aroused the anger of the villagers, who wanted to resist with force or even die together. If Aegean hadn't stopped these villagers, they would have sought revenge on Eren long ago. In that case, they would have just been massacred in vain. Those ordinary fishmen can still deal with them with their numerical advantage, but with Eren and those three cadres, it is not possible to defeat them with a large number of people." Aegean said with a smile. "After all, I am the village policeman, and it is my duty to help everyone. Belmir certainly does not want the village to be damaged." When Nokigao heard Belmir, she felt a little gloomy. "It would be nice if my mother was here, she was a few years older than Nami. She also lost her parents at that time, and found Nami who was still alive in the corner. She held her as a baby and walked in the ruins, with a dark future. After all, she was still young at that time, what could she do? It was difficult to support oneself, let alone bring a baby. It was the appearance of Belmir that gave the two of them life. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is his and Nami's biological mother. It would be great if she were still alive now. His orange grove would be so lush. It's a pity that she has no chance to repay her kindness. Even looking at the orange grove brought her nothing but sadness. After all, my mother is gone, but the orange grove is still there. Seeing things and thinking about people, every time I see that garden, I feel empty in my heart, as if I have lost something." On the morning of the second day, Nami slowly opened her eyes while lying on the bed. Her face was very soft and calm, and there was no longer any anxiety on her face before. Because the dragon pirates have been defeated, her worries have disappeared. "The pressure on my head is gone, and I no longer have to raise the 100 million belly. And the 93 million Baileys are hers." Of course, Nami had no intention of handing it over, after all, it was all her money. Of course, she will never be a little thief cat again. The name of the little thief cat will disappear into the sea, and another legend will be lost. Thinking about how he was able to seize the treasures of those ferocious pirates without using any force, that would certainly be a legend. Suddenly she felt something on her body, squeezing her a little. Without thinking, I knew it was Minato. He felt a little helpless and smiled bitterly. This guy really likes to lie on his body. Does he really smell so good? Maybe she is really a natural beauty. She obviously slept next to her last night. When I opened the quilt and took a look, it turned out to be that cute little face and golden hair. It's really quite cute. The father's genes were so powerful that he was able to give birth to such a cute child. If only I could have children in the future, I would be able to give birth to such a cute child, and of course I could protect myself. Suddenly a strange thought came to her mind. That father was indeed a good father, and maybe he was really a good partner. When a woman gets married, doesn't she want to give birth to excellent offspring? In my heart, I was somewhat willing to marry Minato's father. No wonder she had such thoughts, because this was her agreement with Minato. According to Minato's character, he will definitely persuade himself to marry his father after waking up. Now she is no longer so repellent. Since her marriage is a big deal, she might as well give it a try. It would be good to at least take a look. Of course, she has to find her brother for Minato, who knows what kind of child he is. At this time, Minato slowly opened his eyes, then rubbed Nami's sister's plump area, and murmured to himself. "You are really soft and comfortable." This feeling makes Nami feel a little happy. This is what it feels like to be a mother. Minato regards her as his baby mother. Although he only regards her as a little sister. But having a child seems to be a really good feeling. Feeling a bit stuck to myself. She said softly. Minato, thank you for helping me deal with the dragon pirates. I will help you find Brother Snake next. Where did that brother go? I remember it was Shimotsuki village. Do you know what he wants to do? According to Minato, she and her brother both came from a mysterious island, and outsiders were not allowed to enter that island. So it's hard for Nami to understand what a child would do in a place like that. Logically speaking, Shimotsuki village should be a remote place. Minato explained. I know this. He seemed to have heard his father mention a person named Kuina, a man with the talents of a great swordsman. Unfortunately, he died long ago. I think she went there just to get Kuina's body. Nami felt a little horrified after hearing this. What kind of purpose was this? Could it be some kind of necrophilia? But such words were not said out loud. After all, it was a bit insulting. She asked doubtfully. What do you want Kuina's body for? Minato lay on Nami's sister's plump part. This must be the soft part that his father always liked. It was indeed very comfortable. Said with a smile. I think Brother Snake wants to get her body and take it back to his father. After all, this is a person that his father values very much. He wants to please his father, and then his father will realize his wish. Nami was even more puzzled. Even if a highly valued talent possesses the qualifications of a great swordsman, what's the use of it? After all, they are all dead. Can the dead still be resurrected? This is impossible. She asked doubtfully. The man is dead, so there seems to be no use in bringing the body back. In her eyes, it belonged to a dead person, so it was best not to move it, otherwise it would be disrespectful to the deceased. Minato continued drowsily. Of course it works. That's because my father has the ability to resurrect that person. My father is quite great, greater than all our brothers and sisters combined. Nami was completely stunned. What resurrection? How is this possible? She simply couldn't believe that someone could resurrect the dead. Wouldn't that be reversing life and death? Even if it is the most magical devil fruit ability in the sea, she has never heard of anyone with such ability. She asked, a little worried. Minato, your father doesn't know how to use magic, right? This method is very bad and can even make an area a taboo place. Nami had heard of the forbidden legend, that because the rules of life and death were violated, that area became a dead zone. Of course this is just a legend, she has never seen it with her own eyes. After Minato heard Nami's sister's words, he was instantly unhappy and looked at Nami's sister with wide eyes. It is impossible for my father to use magic. That is true resurrection. Although it may be unimaginable for ordinary people, my father can do it. Because my father can even do such more terrifying things. Type quote. In her impression, her father is omnipotent and has all the abilities of her brothers and sisters, so the abilities of herself and others should be inherited from her father. It is precisely because of the great father that we have these wonderful children. Except for some rebels, they all respect their father very much. Of course, the anti-bone boy is very afraid of his father. If his father takes action, their genetic ability will not be able to defeat his father, because his father's ability is even more powerful. For example, the Rasengan that he is good at, and the Flying Thunder God technique. There are many kinds of Rasengan that my father mastered. There is Big Ball Rasengan, which is an enhanced version of Rasengan, and its power is even more amazing. Of course, there is also the Massive Rasengan, which is even more powerful, and there are even more powerful Rasengans, even reaching S-level ninjutsu. Of course, her father was more skillful in using the Flying Thunder God technique than she was. His brother's ability is the same. For example, the arrogant brother Dio is like this. He thinks that he can defeat his father by inheriting his father's ability, but his father is actually much more powerful than he imagined, and everything is under his control. Nami realized how serious Minato was, and her serious expression didn't feel like she was lying. But she still couldn't believe this kind of thing, after knowing that this was a resurrected person. Even he has never heard of it. There are indeed some legends in history about resurrecting people and then turning an entire country into ruins. But since Minato is so healthy and sunny, her father shouldn't be able to use magic. Could her father really be able to do such a thing? This still has to raise a big question mark. Even if Minato is a child who cannot lie, there is no guarantee that her father is not just exaggerating. But even questioning would make Minato unhappy, so she stopped questioning it. Instead, he planned to take her to leave Kokoja village and find her brother. She changed the subject. Minato, after you have finished your breakfast and packed your luggage, I will take you to find the place in Shimotsuki village. Just go to the National Administration Center and ask. Someone should still know about it. I want to send you back to your family as soon as possible this time. Although I wanted to help the village, first killed those marine rat colonels. Although he was at fault, I am afraid that Marine will still attack you indiscriminately. Because Marine actually colluded with the dragon pirates, claiming to be for justice and peace, but he didn't expect to be so despicable and shameless, even more disgusting than the pirates. Although Minato was very strong, she didn't want any accidents to happen. Of course, she sent him home as soon as possible and took him to her brother, so that she could have a good explanation. Minato muttered. I'm not afraid of Marine. If it's all these idiots, they won't be able to catch me. Nami said while holding her little head. Marine is the most powerful force in the world. There are not just idiots like Colonel Marine, but also very powerful masters, such as the 3 generals of Marine, the Sengoku Fleet Admiral, and the hero Garp. It's better to be careful. Minato continued muttering. Of course I still have to be careful about these people, but as long as I find my snake brother, I won't be afraid even of these people. Her snake brother is still very powerful, a master of Grandmaster Ninjutsu. Although it's not that strong, it's just compared to those invincible brothers. But it is still a terrifying existence for people outside. Nami just thought she was joking. Even if her brother was very strong, he couldn't be stronger than the 3 generals of Marine, Sengoku Fleet Admiral and that hero Garp. They were all the top powers in the world. The generals all seem to have invincible devil fruit abilities, and General Akainu even possesses rockberry fruits and has burned and killed many pirates. Marine General Aokiji possesses frozen fruits and can freeze the sea. General Kizaru possesses the shining fruit and is the fastest in the sea. Not to mention the fleet admiral of the Warring States period, he was the commander of Marine. His combat power was absolutely top-notch, and he also had the title of Wise General. Needless to say, Lieutenant General Garp. Even though he was just Lieutenant General Shao, he was one of the strongest men on the sea. Back then. He even chased the late One Piece everywhere. It is precisely because of them that we can fight against the pirates' 4 emperors and many pirates on the sea. Although I don't have a good impression of Marine, there is nothing wrong with these people. These people all represent justice. Without these people, this sea would only be more chaotic. So she didn't think that the little girl's brother could be so strong. If her brothers and sisters could be as strong as this, wouldn't her father be even more powerful? Stronger than Marine's highest combat power, wouldn't her father be the overlord of this world? Of course this is impossible. So it was probably just the other person's father bragging. Otherwise, how could Minato have such an understanding? At this time, Nuo Chigao and Aegean opened the door and walked in. Of course the two heard Minato's words about resurrection. Aegean naturally didn't believe it. Aegean said with a smile. Actually, you don't have to worry about Colonel Marine. Although Minato helped us kill Colonel Marine deserved it. Marine can't tolerate him for colluding with pirates. When we handed over the members of the Dragon Pirates to Marine, we told the truth. Minato was a little unhappy after hearing this. Why? That guy Eren bullied the people in the village so much, and also bullied Sister Nami, causing Sister Nami to suffer so much. Shouldn't such a guy be tortured and then killed? This kind of treatment is not in line with their family's consistent style. Even she, a soft-hearted person, understands that facing the enemy must be as cruel as the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. Takaru didn't expect Minato to be so cruel, but it was understandable considering she was so powerful and had such a tough character. He explained. The reason why it was handed over to Marine was of course in exchange for the bounty. Our village, as well as other villages, should receive compensation. It's because there is a Shichibukai behind him. If we kill him, then if that Shichibukai comes to seek revenge, I'm afraid we won't be able to resist it. Nami strongly agrees with this solution. Aegean, let's make this decision, I support it. Aegean's handling is very appropriate, so as to maximize the benefits. There is nothing more cruel to this evil fish-man pirate than using Eren in exchange for the bounty. It would be much more profitable than killing him, just let him become Bailey obediently. Although she did not pocket the money, but gave it to the village and the villagers in surrounding villages, it was enough to relieve her anger. There is no reason to object anymore. Nokigao didn't express her position. She didn't care about Eren's affairs now, but other things because Minato talked about resurrection. Is this true? Resurrection is really too bizarre, but even if there is 1% hope, she is willing to give it a try. It is really the death of her mother that has created too big a hole in her heart. If there is hope to make amends, then why not make amends? This is a regret in life. This is more important than anything else, she asked. Minato, just now at the door, I heard you tell Nami about resurrection. Is your father really able to do it? Minato asked Kaido in displeasure. Of course, my father can do anything. Then she added. By the way, you must not tell others about this matter, otherwise it will be too sensational and will cause a lot of trouble to my father, who will probably punish me. This was only because she hadn't woken up before she said it. Otherwise, even Sister Nami wouldn't be able to say such a big thing. My father was afraid that the family members would mess around on the sea, so he forbade most of his brothers from going out. If an incident causes a sensation on the sea, it will attract the attention of the world government and pose a threat to the family. But lately, my father doesn't seem to care about this problem anymore. Even Brother Dio has sneaked out. Of course, Brother Dio should also be following Brother Jotaro. Of course, they didn't take them with them and sneaked out by themselves. So I also sneaked out. Although it is good to stay in the family, I still feel a bit bored if I stay for a long time. The outside world is very good and vast, and the scenery is different everywhere. After hearing her vow, Aegean still didn't quite believe it. This is too exaggerated. Although his father may be very powerful when resurrecting a dead person, how could he possibly do such a thing? Only gods can do such a thing. Nami didn't really believe it either. After all, it was too shocking. Even though Minato said it with a serious face, she still couldn't believe it. It's not that he doesn't believe Minato, it's just that this kind of thing is too bizarre. Nokigao asked with a serious face at this time. My mother Belmir is dead. Can you ask your father to help me resurrect her? Aegean's expression changed. I didn't expect that Nokia would ask this question. It seems that he is not the only one who cares about Belmir. Nojigao also remembers Belmir. Belmir's sacrifice was not in vain. But he still objected. Forget it. This is impossible to do. It's better not to disturb Belmir. Belmir deserves the peace and quiet she wants. Nami was stunned. Why didn't she think of this problem? Although I don't believe it, try it. Otherwise, how will you know whether it is true or false? What if it really succeeds? That way her life would really be complete. No regrets left. So she didn't care what Aegean said. Yes, Minato, will your father be willing to resurrect my mother? Minato said thoughtfully. It's no problem. I think as long as Sister Nami marries my father and then asks him to marry me, he will agree. As long as Sister Nami gives birth to more children for her father to please him, then it will definitely be okay. My father still likes children very much. That's why I have so many brothers and sisters. Nami's face turned red when she heard this. You actually have to give birth to a child, and you have to give birth to many children to be sure. Although she knew that she should pay a high price for this kind of thing, this kind of behavior of giving birth is the biggest price for a girl. But she has just become a mature woman, and not only has to consider a partner, but she even has to consider having children. Although she also wanted to give birth to a cute child like Minato, it was still a little too early for her. At this time, Nokigao looked at Minato firmly. I can also give birth to children for your father. As long as I can resurrect my mother, I can give birth to as many children as I want. After saying that, she felt a little excited. Because this is really her only chance to fulfill her regrets in life. Of course I have to give it a try. Even if I don't know if it's true or false now, at least if I meet in person, I should be able to get the truth from Minato's father. She hoped in her heart that it was true. After all, Minato was so young and so powerful, so her father would definitely be very powerful. Maybe there is some hope of knowing the true art of resurrection. Otherwise, he would not have revealed it to his daughter. Minato was staring at Nokigao. She has short blue hair, big eyes, and dark skin. Some of her mothers have dark skin, and her father seems to like people with this kind of skin. She looks a bit like Nami-san. She stood up directly from Nami, then walked up to Nuochigao and stretched out her hands. He hugged Nochigao and smelled her carefully. Nochigao just let her hold him. Is the little guy testing his own quality? You shouldn't have a bad smell on yourself, right? After a long time, Minato finally let go and said with a smile. My sister smells so good too, but I don't know if my father will be willing to marry you if I take her back. If he doesn't marry you, he probably won't help you resurrect your mother. In fact, she just thought Sister Nami was very good, so she wanted to take her back. As for whether her father will marry, she doesn't know. After all, a father is not what every woman wants. What is important is that he looks pleasing to the eye. Nokigao was very happy. She was very confident in Nami and herself. That's good. I will go with you to your family's mysterious island. Of course, Nami and I can give birth to children for your father, that's enough. In order to resurrect her mother Belmir, she also risked her life. Nami will definitely agree. Mother is equally important in Nami's heart. Nami felt so ashamed. Don't make such a promise so easily. Although Nami saw how cute Minato was and wanted to have a baby, of course she had to make her own decision if she wanted to have a baby. She didn't need anyone else to make the decision for her. Even her sister was the same. Her own belly made the decision. But she didn't object. If she had some objections before, she doesn't now. In the past, she would insist that girls should not decide to give birth to a man so frivolously, but now the other man may resurrect her mother. If he can really be resurrected, coupled with his previous good impression of him, and give birth to a cute girl like Minato, then Minato's father will definitely be a very good partner candidate. There is no reason to object. Ajien, on the other hand, stared at this scene with his mouth open. Nuochigao was too brave. What were he saying? Not only did he give birth to a child for Minato's father, but he even got Nami involved. Although Minato saved Kokoja village, her father would not be a bad person. But this kind of thing is too strange. Looking at Nami's look, she actually doesn't object. Does this mean she agrees? Belmir definitely didn't want his daughter to be like this, deciding her life so easily. Even if the father is not a bad person, how do you know he is a good match? Since they can't decide, of course they can't easily decide to have children for them. This will harm both of them for life. He protested. Don't do this, Belmir doesn't want you to do this either. Nokigao did not change his decision, on the contrary, he became more determined. Aegean, you also hope that Belmir can come back, even if there is a 1 in 10,000 chance. Do you want to live in regrets for the rest of your life? Jien's feelings for his mother are not inferior to hers and Nami's at all, and may even be more passionate than his sister's in some aspects. Aegean thought of the good old days when Belmir was around. Belmir was really a girl engraved in her heart. It would be great if she could be resurrected. He did hope that she would survive. Maybe as Nakigao said, the 1 in 10,000 chance should be given a try. Otherwise, he will have regrets throughout his life. So all of a sudden he no longer had the will to persuade. Minato's eyes lit up after hearing this, his desire to revive his mother was really strong. Unexpectedly, not only did I successfully bring Nami back this time, but I also brought Nami's sister Nochigao back with me. Her father would definitely praise her. Nokigao didn't have any objection when he saw Nami. Of course she heard her words very clearly. Since she had no objection, of course she agreed. And Aegean did not object again. He said looking at something. Minato, then set off immediately to see your father. Only by seeing it with your own eyes and asking the other person can you know whether it is possible to resurrect Belmir. Minato is not a bad person, so Minato's father should not be a bad person either, otherwise he would not be able to raise such a child. Nami was speechless. Nokigao looked really in a hurry. Well, she understands the other person's mood. If it weren't for the matter of giving birth, she would be very urgent. It has to be said that Nokia cares more about Belmir than she does, but will not go directly to Minato's family. He had just promised Minato. So she said. Nokigao, Help Minato find her brother first, and then go find her father. After hearing this, Nuochigao said with a smile. What are you waiting for? Go find her brother immediately. Minato looked happy. Okay. So after the three of them had breakfast, they took some necessities and set off in a small boat. Aegean watched them from a distance. There is hope in my heart. I hope this is true and Belmir can really come back to life. In this way, not only can I make up for the regrets in my heart, but so can Nami and Nokigao. Of course Minato looked happy on the boat. He brought back 2 people. His father would be very happy. They were both fragrant and soft. Nokigao looked at Nami. Do you know where we're going? Nami patted her chest and said. Don't worry, since it's a village with a name, you can easily find it. Nokigao felt relieved after hearing this. It seemed that Nami was very experienced. She turned to look at Minato who had a smile on his face. Is this guy really happy? Are you happy that your father brought back 2 women? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but asked curiously. Minato, what kind of person is your father? Minato lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying. My father is a man who loves his wife very much. Of course he is more indulgent towards his children. In addition to not allowing us to cause trouble outside, of course he is also very strong, handsome, gentle and considerate. Nokigao felt relieved after hearing this. Is he gentle, considerate, strong and handsome? He also loves his wife and cares about his children. He seems to be a very easy to get along with. Although she is not afraid of giving birth to children for her partner, she also hopes that her other half is a very good person, and now it really satisfies her psychology. I feel that this time I can not only resurrect my mother, but also find my other half. She is no longer a little girl like Nami who has just grown up. She is 4 or 5 years older than Nami. At this age, she should have found her other half long ago. But before I was under the rule of the dragon pirates, there was no way to find it, and of course I didn't encounter it. I was already exhausted just to make a living, so there was no way I could do such a thing. Not only her, but also everyone else in the village. Maybe this time the little girl not only saved the village, but also brought her a good husband. Maybe all of this was destined. In the Fleet Admiral Office of Marine Headquarters, Marineland. Sengoku, Lieutenant General He and Lieutenant General Garp gathered together. They were all old comrades for many years and joined Marine at the same time. There are not many old guys left with us. At this time, the 3 of them looked not very good, because they received a report from the 18th branch of the Donghai branch. Overturned the previous report of Donghai branch 16. Previously, I received a report from the 16th branch of the East China Sea that a pirate killed Captain Marine Mouse of the 16th branch. For such a heinous pirate, the Warring States period immediately ordered a reward of 10 million baileys. This bounty is not low for a little girl. Unexpectedly, there is also a report coming from Donghai Branch 18. The dragon pirates who had been causing trouble in the East China Sea were defeated by a little girl. Captain Aaron was even subdued by her, and the villagers were handed over to Marine. The dragon pirates ruled over a dozen villages in the East China Sea and committed such crimes. Moreover, this report mentioned that Colonel Mouse, a branch of Marine 16 in the East China Sea, colluded with the pirate Aaron to oppress the villagers. Warring States' face was gloomy, he was actually deceived. I didn't expect that Marine like this would appear under his command. It was a huge embarrassment to Marine. Garp was also a little sad. I didn't expect that he had been catching pirates in the East China Sea all year round, and such a cruel pirate would appear. It seemed that he was really negligent. Donghai is his hometown, so of course he must try his best to protect Donghai. The reason why he is called the weakest sea is entirely because he has eliminated all those who have the ability to become great pirates as soon as possible. So they have no chance to become big pirates. Of course, because there are relatively few devil fruits in the East China Sea, there are relatively few people who can become powerful pirates. Lieutenant General He asked with a gloomy expression. How to deal with Marine from the 16th branch of the East China Sea now, and what to do with Aaron. After all, he is the person that the Shichibukai pirate Jinbei wants to protect. Garp said angrily. The presence of these people in Marine is a disgrace to Marine. Of course, all the members of Branch 16 must be eliminated, and they will even be held accountable. As for Aaron, the pirate protected by Jinbei, who committed such a heinous crime. Quote. Of course he will be executed directly. Even Sengoku had an angry expression. Those people have really disgraced Marine. I didn't expect that a moth would appear in Marine. But if they were eliminated so easily, where would we recruit so many Marines? So we'd better send a new branch colonel and make sure to improve military discipline. And Eren, I'd better imprison him in Impel Down City, otherwise the world government will think that I'm destroying the Chiwahai system. Garp was very dissatisfied, so he picked up the plate with senbei on the table and poured it into his mouth. Sengoku, can those worm marines still protect civilians? Isn't the punishment for the dragon too light? Such a person should be beaten to death with his iron fist. After all, they all committed capital crimes, especially that Eren. Warring States said helplessly. Although they have made mistakes, give them a chance to atone. As for locking Eren into Impel Down City, his suffering will not be easier than killing him directly. Garp said nothing more. He knew what Sengoku said was true. Impel Down is a hellish place for pirates, and it would be quite nice to let such a hateful pirate be tortured there. Lieutenant General he did not object. She thinks this method of handling it is very good. After all, Eren has already been let go once because of Haisha Jinbei, so of course he can't let him go again. Warring States Fleet Admiral was determined enough. Even so, he did not kill the evil dragon and had an explanation for the sea hero Jinbei. Of course, there is also an explanation to the world government. Their original duty as Marine is to capture pirates. Letting Eren go once before would have violated Marine's duty. But that was done under the instructions of the world government. It is for the Shichibukai system that Kaisha Jinbei will join Shichibukai. Now there is one more problem to solve. This incident has greatly damaged Marine's reputation. Such a scandal must not be leaked. I have ordered the insiders of Branch 18 to keep the good news secret. Of course, there is also the little girl who killed Colonel Marine. Sengoku, what do you think of dealing with it? He still admires the little girl who killed the dragon pirates. Eren of the Dragon Pirates has a bounty of 20 million Baileys, which is second to none in the East China Sea. She didn't expect that a little girl could actually kill him, so she continued to suggest. I think this is a very outstanding child. If there is a chance, I want to recruit her into Marine and train her well. Maybe she can become the top combat force of Marine like Momosegi's alternate general. Yes, Momosegi is a Marine candidate for general. Although his current military rank is still a lieutenant general, in terms of strength, he can definitely become a general. Compared with the current 3 generals, they are only a little weaker. It can still deter those big pirates. Sengoku agreed with Lieutenant General Suru to protect Marine's reputation. There is nothing to object to. If Marine's reputation is ruined and the world no longer believes in Marine, how can Marine maintain justice for the sea? However, he thought carefully about the second half of Lieutenant General He's words and felt that it was very feasible. Xiaohei, you are right, but the behavior of this little girl named Minato who killed Colonel Marine must be dealt with properly. Then if you finish it off and release her, maybe you can successfully let her join Marine. Lieutenant General He agreed with this approach. After putting her in prison and releasing her, she would probably be grateful to herself. This is a good plan. Garp on the side was unhappy. Sengoku, are you out of your mind? You just killed a Marine who dared to collude with pirates. Such a Marine is simply more hateful than a pirate. Those civilian pirates have been abused by pirates, and the only one who can save them is Marine. Is it a sin to kill such a Marine? I will kill such a Marine if I see one. Minato is not rewarded, but punished instead. Are you crazy? As for Xiaozuru's proposal, I think it is feasible. If a little girl like this joins, she will indeed become a powerful Marine like Momosegi. Sengoku looked at this old guy Garp speechlessly. This guy was really bold and had no manners at all towards his Marine Fleet Admiral. It's been like this since a long time ago. Even though he is a Marine Fleet Admiral, Garp doesn't take himself seriously. Making him angry and helpless, he explained. This is Marine's rule. Even if the Marine Colonel is at fault, he should be dealt with by us instead of being killed casually. If this happens, Marine's justice will be gone. Of course I know she did the right thing, so I just need to arrest her and serve 3 months in prison, which is a symbolic punishment. Then Xiaohei will step in and take care of it. Lieutenant General He also supports this approach. If others are allowed to kill Marine, then our marine's face will really be lost, which will make marine powerless. After all, we are the law enforcers of the sea, and the power of law enforcement must be in our own hands. It's just Sengoku. Who can deal with that little girl? There are not many people in the East China Sea who can defeat the dragon pirates. Are you going to send a lieutenant general from the headquarters? Garp saw that Xiaohei also supported it and no longer objected. It's just a symbolic sentence, and Xiaohei comes forward, so the detention time is probably not too long, so this is feasible. Although he still felt that Minato was innocent, it also reminded him of his grandson, Luffy. This stubborn boy must control his temper, otherwise he will become a pirate like Ace, and he will have a headache. I have to go back when I have time, and I have to suppress it, so I decided. You have to go back and give him a loving fist. At this time, Sengoku was thinking about Xiaohei's words, but he was unwilling to send anyone from his headquarters, because although Lieutenant General Marine had many people, but the whole world needs to be maintained, and it still seems a bit weak. Naturally, it is impossible to send them to a small place like the East China Sea. That would be a waste of huge combat power. He said with a smile. Go and notify Smoker in Rogue Town. If you meet Minato, just catch her. He is the 4th Logia Devil Fruit user in Marine. Even this one is in the East China Sea. No matter how strong the little girl is, she probably hasn't mastered the armed domineering force, so she should be able to win with certainty. Facing Logia users, without armed haki, they would not even have the ability to resist. The person with Logia ability will win 100% of the time. Because users with the Logia Devil Fruit ability can naturalize, their haki attacks will be completely ineffective if they are not armed. Lieutenant General he immediately agreed after hearing what he said. Okay, then I'm going to inform this guy Smoker. He's still a disciple of the former General Zepha. It's a pity Zepha. Zepha is a retired general. Unfortunately, his arm was cut off by pirates. He can only serve as the instructor of the Marine Recruit Training Camp, training Marine talents, but he still has many disciples. Not only the 3 generals, but also many elite lieutenant generals of the headquarters are his disciples. After speaking, Lieutenant General he withdrew. As Chief of Staff, she certainly had the means to contact Smoker. Of course, she will also tell Smoker to take good care of Minato this time, or at least be gentle. After all, this is her beloved future disciple. After Xiaohei left, Garp stuffed the remaining senbei directly into his mouth and muttered. Warring states, it's time for me to leave. By the way, I should tell you that I am no longer on the Great Waterway recently, but have returned to my hometown in the East China Sea. Sengoku was very angry when he saw that Garp actually ate all his favorite delicacies, senbei. Why did you eat all the senbei? The angry look disappeared instantly. After all, he knew what kind of temper Garp had, especially when facing an old friend like him. He didn't give him any face. He said, adjusting his glasses. If I had known that your kid was going to go, I wouldn't have had to order Smoker. With your intervention, I should be able to catch that little girl and bring her to justice. Garp's armed domination ranks first among Marines, and even he is probably not that powerful. Lieutenant General Marine, who can fight Roger, is more than capable of capturing a little girl. Garp frowned and said disdainfully. Warring states, what do you think of me? That little girl is innocent at all, and I don't want to arrest her at all. It would be a shame for me to capture a little girl. Of course it would be a big pirate. Warring states did not look disappointed after hearing this, but instead proposed a deal with a calm face. If you can catch her, you can eat senbei anytime you come to my place. With his salary, he can still afford senbei, even though Garp has a huge appetite. Garp's eyes lit up after hearing this. Then it's settled. If I encounter one, I will catch it and hand it over to Xiaohei for disposal. Arresting such a little girl is not simple and easy. Naturally, he was happy to see that Marine had an excellent junior. Nowadays, the new generation of Marine is not enough. To be honest, the older generation in Marine are very strong, and the middle-aged generation also has the support of the 3 Marine generals, as well as the top lieutenant generals. But after this, the new generation can be said to have no successors, and there are no guys who can take a fancy to them at all. After saying that, Garp left the Fleet Admiral office. He had to go back and board his dog-headed warship. Also taking him back was his deputy, Bogart. I wonder if this kid Luffy has sneaked out to become a pirate. If he has become a pirate, he should really be put in prison. Donghailuoj Town. This is where One Piece Gall Roger was executed. It is a nearby town where the East China Sea enters the Great Waterway, which naturally attracts pirates to pay homage to One Piece's final execution place. It is an extremely important place. So Marine naturally sent Smoker, a very powerful Logia Devil Fruit user, to guard this place. Possessing the power of the Logia Devil Fruit, he is extremely terrifying to these underground pirates. With Smoker's combat prowess, he is fully qualified to serve as a lieutenant general in the headquarters. Because he is a Logia Devil Fruit user. Yes, Devil Fruit users are so awesome. This ability is rare even in the New World. In Marine's office in the town, Smoker made a promise to Lieutenant General He with a speechless expression. Lieutenant General He, I will arrest her and imprison her for 3 months. Then hung up the phone bug. His face was very ugly. He didn't expect that the scary little girl Minato who had offered a reward of 10 million Baileys was actually framed. The Colonel Marine she killed actually colluded with pirates, which was really a scandal for Marine. He didn't expect that the little girl was the one who saved the villagers who were harmed by the dragon pirates. Such behavior made him awe-inspiring. Dasky, who was wearing glasses, big eyes, and short black hair, was also a little emotional. I didn't expect it to be like this. Hee-jong is very fond of Minato and wants her to join our marine. To be honest, she was a little envious, because that was Lieutenant General He. She has a very high status in Marine and is one of the few female Marines who can hold a high position. She is the staff officer of Marine headquarters. This position is more powerful and important than the Lieutenant General of the headquarters. Being able to reach this position shows that she is a very capable female Marine. And she is afraid that she may not reach the position of Marine Lieutenant General in this life. The reason why she was detained for 3 months was to temper Minato's temperament. Although Colonel Mouse is very hateful, of course he cannot be dealt with by civilians, but should be left to Marine. Although it's a bit unkind, it still has to be done. These are the rules. Otherwise, everything will be messed up. She looked at Colonel Smoker and asked, Colonel, when are you going to set off to arrest Watergate? Smoker lit a cigar, leaned on his chair, and said nonchalantly, who knows where Minato is? How can I catch him? Let's wait until we meet him later. I guess it's impossible for a person like Minato to stay in the East China Sea. After hearing this, Dasky thought it made sense. Just how will Lieutenant General He deal with it? Smoker said nonchalantly. Just answer truthfully, what else can I do? After all, the town of Rogue that I protect is equally important. If I'm not here and Rogue Town is invaded by pirates, the whole Marine's facade will be lost. I can still tell the difference. When Dasky saw this, she said nothing more. After all, this place is very important, otherwise we wouldn't have sent such a colonel down. It is said that he was once an elite member of the Marine recruit camp and a Logia Devil Fruit user. You must know that Marine's other 3 Devil Fruit ability users all belong to the 3 generals, who can intimidate the entire sea and frighten the pirates in the New World. The future Colonel Smoker will probably be able to reach that position. On a small boat in the waters near Rogue Town, a man wearing a black and red hat and eagle eyes was rowing a long black knife, preparing to enter the Great Channel through the windless zone. Although there are a large number of Poseidon species in the windless zone, it can be said to be very dangerous. Almost no pirate ships can pass through, and the only ones that can effectively pass through are Marines. But with Hawkeye's swordsmanship, there is no fear at all. Even the strongest pirate type will be cut in half under his sword. The smell of blood will soon attract other Poseidon species, so he can get through unscathed. Before returning to his home, he planned to meet the redhead. I didn't expect that I would meet such an interesting guy during this trip to the East China Sea. It wasn't just the straw hat Luffy that the red-haired man often mentioned to himself. The red-haired man actually handed his straw hat to the boy. Hawkeye knew what that straw hat meant. If he remembered correctly, that straw hat seemed to be worn on the head of former One Piece Gall Roger. The red hair passed the straw hat to that person, the meaning of which is self-evident. I wanted to take a good look at him, but I didn't expect that a young boy would dare to fight with me, without even realizing the gap between me and him. But the result was unexpected. He saw the determination of the young swordsman, a determination that was not even afraid of death, and a persistence in the art of swordsmanship. As long as such young people don't die, they will definitely become great swordsmen in the future. As for whether he can become his opponent, that is yet to be determined. This is confidence in yourself. But he is still dissatisfied with his swordsmanship because the strongest man in the world is Whitebeard. Although he has the title of the world's greatest swordsman, he is only in the field of swordsmanship. His swordsmanship will surely surpass that of the strongest man in the world. He still has a long way to go. At this time, a small boat sailed slowly from the windless zone. This surprised him greatly. On the boat was a young man with green tears on his face, wearing white clothes and a sword at his waist. Just standing quietly with his hands in his pockets, the small boat sailed towards the East China Sea as if it could move on its own. This guy's outfit looks like he is a very powerful swordsman. Otherwise, how can we pass through the windless zone safely? As for luck, I passed through the windless zone without encountering the Poseidon class. This probability is close to zero. If a target as big as a small boat appears on the sea, those ferocious Poseidons will definitely open their mouths and swallow it, there is no doubt about it. Of course, an idea flashed through his mind, that is, this guy is a swordsman similar to himself. Otherwise, how could he have such a cold attitude? But think about it, this is impossible. This young man is only in his teens at most, definitely not yet an adult. At this age, he will definitely not be able to pass the windless zone, and he does not have the strength. The young man in black with short hair and white clothes on the boat had an indifferent expression on his face. This time he came out just to find his little sister Minato. Unexpectedly, this little guy actually sneaked out. She is the treasure of her father. That Orochimaru brother also sneaked out. Immediately afterwards, the little girl disappeared, probably she sneaked out with Orochimaru. As for brother Orochimaru, he is not worried. His strength is still good. Especially the East China Sea, the weakest sea. Even in the New World, he has the ability to protect himself, after all, he is Grandmaster Ninjutsu. Of course, there is also his magical substitute technique, the Orochimaru-style substitute technique. It can be said to be a miraculous life-saving ability. Even if you are fatally injured, you can still use it at a critical moment. Use the external body as a substitute to transfer yourself from the mouth, without the need for seals. But that little girl is different. After all, she is only 5 or 6 years old. Although she has the Grandmaster S-level ninjutsu Flying Thunder God technique, people outside are complicated. She is still too naive and easily deceived. That's why her father asked him to bring her back. At this time, the waves on the sea became rough, and even the boat began to shake violently. A huge shadow appeared under the water. But his face remained calm. Also seeing this scene was Mihawk, whose expression became serious. Sure enough, it was impossible to cross the windless zone without attracting the attention of Poseidons. Those ferocious Poseidons will attack even pirate ships. Poseidons are terrifying creatures to ordinary people. Even the people on the small boat in front of them may be buried in the belly of the fish. Although he is not a good person, he will not watch such a scene appear in front of him. Holding the black knife with one hand, he was ready to kill the fish the moment it came out. In just a few seconds, the shadow under the sea grew bigger and bigger, and it jumped out of the sea with its huge mouth wide open and bit into the small boat. Is a giant fish of the class Poseidon. It looks very cruel. At this moment, Ulquiorra drew the sword from his waist. He swung out behind him with lightning speed. A huge green slash struck directly at the Poseidon behind him. The huge Poseidon was instantly cut in half. The body fell into the sea water, causing a huge splash. But the water splashed onto the boat, but it seemed as if there was an invisible medium blocking the boy's side and did not wet his body. This is his spiritual pressure protection. Mihawk, who was about to take action, looked extremely shocked. He was actually able to wield such a powerful slash that he could kill a Poseidon with just one blow. It's really scary. It doesn't mean that the opponent's strength has reached his level. Is this the level of swordsmanship that a young man should have? This level of swordsmanship is at least a very powerful swordsman, even reaching the level of a great swordsman. The sword swing is clean and neat, without any unnecessary movements, and it is extremely fast. Being able to swing such a slashing attack shows that the young man is physically very strong. The most important thing is his calmness. Even having such strength at this age did not make him proud. It shows that the opponent is not an ordinary swordsman genius, but a truly terrifying swordsmanship genius. Only true swordsmanship geniuses would not be happy about making such a terrifying blow. This kind of thing is commonplace for them. Thinking of this, Eagle Eye's mood suddenly became a little surging. I didn't expect to meet such a terrifying young master of swordsmanship in the East China Sea. He was much more powerful than Zoro's swordsman, and might not be on the same level at all. Although Zoro has a strong will to pursue the peak of swordsmanship without fear of death. But he is obviously an adult. Although his strength may be a bit strong in a small place like the East China Sea, if thrown into the new world of the Great Channel, any swordsman who comes out will be much stronger than him. Not even as good as the chimpanzee Kendo near his home. Although it may be because he was born in the hotbed of the East China Sea that his strength is not strong enough, Hawkeye still cannot see the factors that make Zoro comparable to him. But he can see this hope in the young man in front of him. Given a few more years, maybe this young man in front of him will have the strength to challenge himself. At this time, the young man rode past him and asked with cold eyes. Uncle, please tell me, have you ever seen a beautiful little girl with blonde hair? She looks about 5 or 6 years old. This is the East China Sea, and the scope is really too large. Searching alone is like looking for a needle in a haystack. You can only ask the people you meet to see if you can find any clues. Hawkeye's excitement suddenly disappeared, because he heard the other party's name. You actually called him uncle. This made him feel a little depressed. Is he that old? But I didn't care too much in my heart. I haven't seen it. However, looking at your attack just now, do you also want to become the world's greatest swordsman? To be able to have such a strong swordsmanship must have been practiced since childhood. Without the love for swordsmanship and the persistence of becoming the best in the world, I am afraid there would be no such strong swordsmanship. Ulquiorra was expressionless after hearing this. I have no interest at all in becoming the world's best swordsman, or in kendo. Since I don't know, then I will leave. Then the boat gradually moved forward. This is of course the propulsion ability he gives the ship using his Reiatsu. In fact, he could have flown directly, but his father told him not to be too ostentatious in the outside world. And the flying ability must be very amazing to the outside world. People with the ability to fly are extremely rare in this world. Flying out of thin air will definitely attract the attention of interested people who want to study how it is done. Therefore, it is not possible to fly directly to avoid causing trouble to the family. Although he felt that his father's worries were unnecessary. Because the father is invincible. Even the world government or pirates he was worried about were no threat at all. After hearing his words, Hawkeye was surprised. What do you mean? He's not interested in kendo. How can kendo be so scary for people who are not interested in kendo? Even practice to the point where you can swing a flying slash at will. He couldn't believe it at all. Doesn't that mean that the other party's swordsmanship talent is better than yours? He has never seen anyone who is better than him in swordsmanship, not even the red-haired Shanks who has dueled with him several times. Maybe Hongfa's all-round strength can surpass him, but in terms of swordsmanship alone, he will never be his opponent, so he is the world's #1 swordsman, and Hongfa is one of the 4 emperors of the sea. Hawkeye asked with great displeasure. Are you kidding? If you are not interested in kendo, how could you have such a strong kendo? This kind of swordsmanship means that a genius has been practicing since childhood, otherwise it would not be possible to have such a profound swordsmanship. This is definitely not something that talent alone can bring about. Ulquiorra looked at him coldly. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. Kendo is too childish and unrefined. He has recently mastered a new ability called virtual ability, which is much more useful than his sword. The one that allows him to emit virtual flashes can condense spiritual pressure into ray flashes. He once mentioned to his father that this was his special ability. Every time a father gives birth to a child, the child can inherit a template, and some templates have virtual abilities. The ability is above the ninja template, and even above some Shinigami templates, except for the top Shinigami template in a certain series. For example, Brother Aizen and Brother Genryusai. However, according to his father, if his abilities were developed to a very high level, he might not be able to fight against these two brothers. However, he had no intention of confronting the two of them. After all, it belongs to a family, and as long as it can make the family strong, he will be happy. After hearing what he said, Mihawk's face froze. The anger in his heart kept rising. How dare you say that kendo is for children? You must know that this is your lifelong pursuit and cannot be trampled by others. Furthermore, swordsmanship in the sea also belongs to a branch of a major power system. In terms of attack power, it is not weaker than those powerful devil fruit abilities on the sea. This is why he insists on swordsmanship and has no pursuit of devil fruit abilities. Look at the young man in front of you. He said grimly. Duel with me, and I will show you what the best swordsmanship is on the sea. After saying that, he held He Daoye with one hand, and a strong sword power burst out from his body. Normally, he would not even bother to fight with someone who was not the top swordsman in the sea. Now this person's insult to kendo has aroused his anger. He must let the other person understand that kendo is not for children. Ulquiorra said nonchalantly. I have no interest in dueling you. I still have things to do. Their father also asked them not to cause trouble outside unless they were in danger. So as not to expose the family and let others take notice. Although he didn't think there would be anything wrong with being targeted, he would still follow his father's orders. After saying that, his boat sailed out again. When Hawkeye saw his indifferent attitude, he became even more angry. He directly waved the black knife Yi and rushed towards the young man in front of him with a terrifying black slash. The terrifying slash even opened a gaping hole in the sea. Said coldly. If you don't fight me today, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave. He had already planned to teach this young man a lesson for looking down on swordsmanship so much. Then teach the opponent a good lesson in the swordsmanship that the opponent despises. Ulquiorra was not frightened by this terrifying blow, but looked at the man coldly. This person took action against him, so naturally his action would not be considered a violation of his father's order. Sure enough, he drew his sword again. Then he turned around and suddenly waved out with one hand. A green slash quickly headed towards the black slash. The two terrifying slashes collided in the air. Then both were annihilated, and their power was completely consumed. Eagle Eye was a little surprised when he saw this scene. Even if it was an ordinary blow of his own, he could actually block it completely. Even the other party was just like him, slashing with one hand casually. This fully shows that the opponent's swordsmanship has reached the level of a great swordsman. But this made him angry. He casually swung out another black slash towards the opponent. Since you have such power, why do you despise the sword? Ulquiorra looked at the flying slash and swung a green slash to meet it. The colliding slashes were both wiped out again. Do you despise kendo? He had never despised the way of the sword. Pure swordsmanship is too weak. Even if the spiritual pressure slash he wields is powerful, it is not that strong. Even his brothers Aizen and Genryusai are definitely not so terrifying because of their pure swordsmanship. But because of their powerful Zanpakuto abilities. But the guy in front of me can collide with him, and he doesn't feel like an original resident of the East China Sea. Who are you? There can't be such a person in the East China Sea. He remembered that his father once mentioned that the East China Sea is a famous weak sea. At least that's the case at this stage. Mihawk directly reported his name. Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. The name Seven Warlords of the Sea was not in his eyes at all, so naturally he did not apply for it. This name just makes it easier for him to do things without being chased and intercepted by Marine, and brings him a peaceful life. He continued to wield flying slashes, and must teach the opponent a lesson of contempt for the way of the sword. This time the slash was more powerful. Ulquiorra knew this name. It turned out to be Hawkeye, the world's greatest swordsman. No wonder he had such power. Facing Hawkeye's terrifying continuous slashes, he used his own saber to block them one by one. Now he is somewhat interested. He wanted to see what the top strong man in the sea that his father was afraid of actually had, and at the same time he also used a green slash. The two sides fought together like this. At this time, countless terrifying slashes came out on the sea, cutting the entire sea. Both sides launched terrifying flying slashes. If they didn't collide and cancel each other out, Then such power could easily tear a hole in the sea. The more Hawkeye fought, the more frightened he became. He never expected that this young man's swordsmanship would be so strong and lasting. He doesn't look like a teenager at all. Instead, he looks like a veteran swordsman. The opponent's body is very strong, otherwise he would not have such endurance. There are not many people on the sea who can compete with me in swordsmanship like this. The power of his casual strike is at least at the level of a great swordsman. He no longer regards the other party as a junior. Rather, he is a very powerful swordsman-level opponent. The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes, and the fight between the two gradually subsided. The sea area around the two people gradually returned to calm. Hawkeye looked at the boy. He is definitely a prodigy in swordsmanship. Up to now, the young man still looks calm and heartless, just like himself, which shows that the other party still has quite a lot of energy left. Asked rather puzzled. Why do you think that kendo is just a trick when you have such kendo? With the strength of the other party, he can dominate even in the new world. Just don't mess with those monster-level characters. Even when facing other Chihuahua, there is no problem in retreating safely, not to mention defeating the opponent. As long as you don't commit suicide. It's not that he is bragging, he feels that his strength is still on a higher level than other Shichibukai. This young man fought with himself to such an extent that he could naturally leave peacefully in the hands of others. But you must know that he is only a teenager now. If he takes a few years, his swordsmanship may still improve. I'm afraid I will only be worse than myself at that time. But facing other Chihuahua, we may be quite sure of victory. Of course it is still impossible to defeat yourself. This is not to boast, but because my combat power is already at the top of the world, even though it is only one of the top. Ulquiorra looked at the other person indifferently. Have you underestimated kendo? He seems to be a guy obsessed with kendo. He had no intention of looking down on kendo. But I feel that the power of pure swordsmanship is too weak. It is very weak without other special abilities. No matter how powerful the sword is, it will be burned to ashes in Ryujin Jaka, Genryusai's brother. Even the strongest swordsmanship can't defeat Aizen's brother's Kyoka Suigetsu. He said coldly. You are too insignificant. You have never seen any real power. If you don't want to die, just walk away. Although Shu's abilities are not fully mastered, he can still exert them reluctantly. The Black Void Flash displayed has very terrifying destructive power, which cannot be competed by abilities of the level of swordsmanship. When Mihawk heard what this young man said, his face was stunned, and then he became angry. What's the meaning? Do you compare yourself to a young boy who is just starting out and doesn't know the heights of the world? Just like the Zoro I met before, don't you know the real difference between the swordsman of the East China Sea and the best in the world? What a joke, he is the one who stands at the top of this world, and even if this young man is very powerful, he is just getting started. Who says he has never seen the real terrifying strength on the sea? His own swordsmanship is the truly terrifying strength in the sea. Of course, there is Whitebeard, the truly terrifying ability that shakes the world, red-haired Shank's terrifying conqueror's domination, and Kaido and Charlotte Linlin's terrifying physiques. Marine hero Garp's invincible armament and dominance. Who says he hasn't seen it before? Although he has not interacted with many of these people except for the red hair, it does not prevent him from knowing and seeing them. This young man's tone must be too loud. Now he was wondering if there was something wrong with this young man's brain. He has already told the other party his title is the world's greatest swordsman. Isn't the world's greatest swordsman a terrifying force? Don't you know what the world's greatest swordsman means? Then Mihawk calmed down. If I just wanted to teach the other party a lesson before, now I feel that I have been completely underestimated. He was about to get really serious. I will show you what it means to be the world's greatest swordsman. After saying this, the aura on his body was completely different, exuding a powerful and fierce aura. He didn't want to destroy the seedlings, but if the seedlings were too arrogant. I can only wish for happiness on my own. I hope he is strong enough to take his strongest blow and still save his life. Just when he was about to swing the black sword in his hand and strike with the sword of the world's strongest swordsman. But he saw the young man in white in front of him slowly stretched out his long sword, apparently not intending to wield a more terrifying slash. It was incredible for a moment. Are you planning to die? He couldn't understand why he didn't swing the black knife in his hand. At this moment, Ulquiorra shouted softly. Seal it down, Blackwing Demon. In an instant, the entire sky turned dark, and a cold and nihilistic aura filled the surrounding area. At this time, Ulquiorra had grown black demon wings, his hair had become longer, and the sword in his hand disappeared. He feels his current situation. It was indeed as powerful as he imagined. It is several times stronger than before. I am not very good at controlling this ability, and I have not yet mastered the strongest ability. Logically speaking, he could use the Thunder Spear, but he found that he still couldn't condense it. This move can destroy a small island. Of course, he has mastered another kind of virtual flash. The virtual flash is just a simple condensation of spiritual pressure, and there is no need to use the thunder gun. He looked at the man indifferently. Now that I have seen this situation, I will kill the world's greatest swordsman today. In the past, when his brothers went to sea, almost everyone who saw their true abilities died. Therefore, their family did not cause any disturbance in this ocean. Because everyone who has seen it is dead. And the person in front of him is already dead in his eyes. See my true power, and all you will receive is death. When Hawkeye heard the other party's cold words, he sneered in his heart. It turns out that the other party is also serious about it. It seems that this is a kind of devil fruit ability. The wings growing from his back give people a feeling of death, and he can feel the void. This kid is really not simple. But now I just feel very funny in my heart, and the fighting spirit in my heart has been reduced a lot. I originally thought he was a swordsman genius, but unexpectedly he turned out to be a mediocre devil fruit user. Devil fruit can indeed give people very powerful power. In this world, many people rely on devil fruit abilities to become top masters. For example, the 3 marine generals use their Logia devil fruit abilities proficiently enough to intimidate the entire sea. Another example is Kaido, who is also a devil fruit user, which gives him even more powerful combat power. But this kind of combat power has a flaw, that is, if it falls into the sea water, it will lose its mobility. As a result, it will naturally be just a lamb to be slaughtered. Of course, they are not just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. If no one comes to rescue them, they will fall into the sea and drown. But now they are on the sea, and the opponent has no chance of winning at all. All he has to do is cut off the opponent's ship. Then he will naturally fall into the water and be drowned. Of course, there is another situation, that is, the opponent has wings and may have the ability to fly, but it doesn't matter. Your sword can be cut within a few kilometers. Such a long distance is still within your attack range. So no matter what he does, he wins. He put down the raised black sword and said with a sneer. Do you think you can defeat the world's greatest swordsman with your devil fruit powers? You are the one who has never seen true power. Of course he is qualified to say this, even if he is facing the 3 marine generals who are proficient in using the Logia fruit ability, or the blue dragon Kaido who has the fish fruit of the phantom beast. He is still not weak, his sword can hurt the opponent, and if someone is not careful, he will be hacked to death. Ulquiorra remained expressionless. Do you actually think this is a devil fruit ability? Don't compare that kind of garbage power with my ability. You're going to die anyway, so I'll let you be a clear ghost. This is the power called virtuality. He slowly stretched out his right fingers, and suddenly energy gathered like black lightning. Suddenly a terrifying black column of energy shot towards Mihawk. Hawkeye was stunned when he saw this scene. This move gave him a very dangerous feeling. All he had to do was hold the knife with both hands to block, the speed was really too fast. This blow directly destroyed the sea level in front and shot directly into the seabed. An extremely terrifying explosion occurred. The water splashed all over the sky, and the sea surface shook constantly, as if a tsunami had occurred. Ulquiorra's boat was shaking constantly. But he was still standing steadily, and the seawater stirred up in the sky was still unable to soak him up, because he had spiritual pressure to protect his body. Soon after, the sea level returned to calm. He controlled his spiritual pressure to push the boat forward. The world's #1 swordsman, Yingyan, caught his black void flash and must have died, with no chance of survival. He released the returning state, his wings disappeared, and his hair became shorter. There is a sword at his waist. This blow consumes a lot of him, after all, he has not fully controlled this power. However, his father had demonstrated it to him, and it was too powerful. The power he exerts now is just childish. I really don't understand why my father keeps the family low-key and has such terrifying power. Why are we afraid of pirates, and why are we afraid of world government? But to be able to keep his father so low-key, the world government must have some hidden tricks. He also knows that this world government has ruled the world for 800 years. The father's caution is warranted. My father is really far-sighted. I sincerely admire my father. And a few minutes after he left, a person suddenly appeared on the sea 1 kilometer away from where Hawkeye originally was. His original black hat was long gone, and even his clothes and cloak were in tatters. If you don't know better, you might think that he is a down-and-out beggar. Even at this moment, he still had a lot of scratches on his body. None other than Mihawk. At this time, he had a solemn and fearful look on his face. I was extremely shocked. How could this young man possess such terrifying moves? He was lucky enough to see Kaido and Charlotte Linlin's terrifying moves. Even when comparing their strongest moves, there is still no concession. This terrifying ability Shock Wave. What devil fruit abilities does this boy have? It always feels like another terrifying devil fruit user has appeared on the sea. This kind of strength is definitely top-notch, at least in terms of attack power. It is no worse than Charlotte Linlin and Hayakusho Kaido. No wonder this boy has the confidence to say that he has never seen real power. The guy who sent this blow is indeed qualified to say such a thing. Such a blow is no weaker than his strongest blow. What a scary boy. This guy shouldn't be from Donghai. It enters the East China Sea from the Great Channel through the windless zone. Where are you from? It seemed that the person had already left, probably because he thought he had died. Thinking of this, he felt a little bitter in his heart. He didn't expect that one day he would be so underestimated. How many years has this happened? Unexpectedly, this visit to the East China Sea really opened his eyes. The Zoro Luffy he met before was just a bit surprising to him. After all, Luffy took over the red-haired Straw Hat. The red-haired man must have had high hopes, and that guy was indeed as naive as the red-haired man. He will probably become a red-haired guy too. Zoro is not even afraid of death, so of course he is the destined candidate for the great swordsman. And the young man I met now was completely comparable to myself. This trip was not in vain. Just when Hawkeye had a sigh on his face, he sensed a creature approaching him on the right side of the sea. When I turned around, I saw a huge shadow on the bottom of the sea. What was it if it wasn't a giant Poseidon? Does it seem like the blood flowing from his scratches attracted them? His face became bitter again, and now his boat was also destroyed. It was really bad. Now it is a dilemma whether to swim back or to swim through the windless zone. Finally decided to swim over. If you return to the East China Sea, you may encounter passing ships. Mihawk, the world's best swordsman, would probably be laughed at if he were seen like this. That would be a loss of face for him. The reason why he killed the Krieg pirates of the East China Sea. It was precisely because the other party saw him rowing a boat at night with a black knife, and was laughed at by them, even by the entire crew, that he chopped off all their boats. After thinking about it, I decided to head towards the windless zone. If I were lucky, I might be able to find a small island and build a raft out of wood. Just as he was thinking, the Poseidon rushed out of the water, opened its bloody mouth and was about to swallow the tiny human in front of him. Mihawk swung a terrifying black slash directly at the giant Poseidon. The huge Poseidon was cut in half with a single blow. Soon its blood dyed the entire sea red. Attracted several Poseidon species. Several Poseidons bit into the Poseidon corpse that was split into two halves. At this time, Hawkeye put away his black knife and headed towards the windless zone. Naturally, there are islands in the windless zone, and these islands are relatively safe. It will not be invaded by pirates. For example, the country of Hancock, the Empress of Shichibukai, is located on the windless island of Kuja. One day later, the Straw Hats who drove the melee and left Cocoa West Village soon set off towards the Grand Waterway. The original purpose was to take Nami into the Great Channel, but Nami couldn't become a pirate anymore. They knew the reason, so naturally they didn't force it. They were just temporarily disappointed and no longer sad about Nami. Not even Luffy. Even if Nami doesn't come on board to become his partner, he will definitely have more partners in the future. Now there are 3 partners, Usopp, Zoro and Sanji. Swordsman, chef, sniper, and of course Usopp is also a navigator. He also needs a musician and a ship's doctor, which are standard equipment for a pirate ship. Of course, strong combatants are also essential. Usopp naturally didn't have any regrets. He deeply knows how hateful pirates are, and the pirate he wants to be is a righteous pirate, at least not an evil pirate, and wants to be famous in the world like his father. If someone is a bit disappointed, it might be Sanji. He still regrets it to this day. After all, Miss Nami is so cute. I hope she won't marry the little girl's father. Miss Nami is still so young. Although Nami didn't get on the boat, it's a pity. Maybe we can meet more beautiful ladies in the future. This will definitely happen. After they left Kokoja village, they went to a large town at Zoro's strong request. Zoro went ashore and bought 4 100-pound barbell plates for training. Now he can't wait to start training. 2 100-pound barbell plates are fixed on the 2 barbell bars. He was ready to wave. But I found that I could only barely lift it up and was unable to squander it at all. Even if he persists and puts pressure on himself. If you can't wave something like this, how can you catch up with Hawkeye? I'm afraid even the genius brothers mentioned by Minato can't catch up at all. Even with such determination, clenched teeth, a ferocious expression on his face, and protruding veins, he was unable to swing at all and could only barely lift it up. Usopp, who was controlling the rudder, looked at him like this and persuaded him. Zoro, don't be too hasty. Each side weighs 200 kilograms. It's too heavy. It's better to weigh 100 kilograms on each side. In fact, even if it is 100 kilograms, it is very heavy for him, and he cannot lift it at all. Zoro, who can lift a 400-pound barbell with both hands, is already amazing in his eyes and is a very reliable partner. Fortunately, the weapon he used was a slingshot, which didn't require much strength, just accuracy. Not only do you have to shoot accurately, but you also need to increase the power of the bullet. His future research directions will mainly focus on these 2 points. Suddenly, Zoro put down the 400-pound barbell. It's already very laborious just to lift it up, and it's impossible to swing it at all. Usopp is right, he should start swinging from 200 pounds. Just prepare to remove 1 barbell plate on each side. You should be able to swing it this way. Usopp believes that Zoro will definitely become a top swordsman in the future. For him, the stronger his partner, the happier he is. The destination he wants to sail to now is of course Rog Town. That was the place where One Piece was finally executed. This is the place where you pass into the Great Waterway. It is a must to visit such a place. Suddenly, Usopp saw a large ship sailing towards them in the distance, with a tiger skull logo hanging on the ship. Isn't this the flag of the pirate ship? He shouted in horror for a moment. Luffy, Zoro, there is a pirate ship approaching us in the distance. His words made Luffy, who was lying on the deck, immediately stand up. Sanji, who was sitting on the chair, also had sharp eyes. Pirates. Coming towards them, I'm afraid they have bad intentions. Burning, killing and looting on the sea is a common thing for pirates. I thought of Nami again and sighed softly. No wonder Nami didn't want to join the pirates. What a kind-hearted woman. But he has no choice. Now that he has joined the Straw Hat Pirates, he will not quit easily. Zoro also stopped training, came to Usopp's side with a word of peace in hand, and looked at the huge pirate ship from a distance. There were dozens of pirates standing on the deck, looking at them with a sneer, as if they were nothing but fish. At this moment, there was a pirate ship in the distance. A very stout man with a machete on his shoulder looked at the small pirate ship with a straw hat logo hanging in the distance. He immediately ordered to his crew. Shoot me. Suddenly the gun door of the hull opened, and 4 cannons came out directly. With a booming sound, 4 cannonballs hit Luffy's pirate ship directly. Usopp was instantly frightened. These guys were firing on us. Although there are cannonballs on the melee, his primary responsibility now is to control the rudder to avoid being hit by the cannonballs. As for counterattack, we can only talk about it later. He visually checked the direction of the cannonball and immediately turned the steering wheel to avoid such an attack. Under his control, he could only avoid 2 shells, and 2 more were fired straight at them. Under this dangerous situation, Luffy looked at the two cannonballs and came directly to the edge of the fence, expanding his body like a wall. He was standing straight against the two attacking shells. The shells smashed into his body, but before they exploded, they were bounced away. One exploded in the air, and the other fell into the water and exploded, causing a huge splash. Zoro looked at Luffy, feeling a little helpless. This reminded him of Hawkeye, who could cut off a large pirate ship with one sword. Kendo also has long-range attacks, which are flying slashes. If he could use it now, the two cannonballs would not be able to get close to the ship, and would have been cut in half and exploded in the air. But it's a pity that he can't use it. But as long as I use the barbell to train my arm strength, I think one day I will be strong enough to swing a flying slash. At that time, he should be able to reach the realm of swordsman. However, it is not that easy to reach this state. The captain of the pirate ship who ordered the cannon saw the boy wearing a straw hat suddenly swelled to a huge body. Startled. This is simply against the laws of nature. It is impossible for a person's belly to grow that big, so there is only one explanation, and that is the other person's ability to eat a devil fruit. You must know that the weakest devil fruit ability is worth 100 million belly. There are very few people with this kind of devil fruit ability in the East China Sea. Doesn't that mean the other party is a powerful pirate? If he were on land, he would be really afraid of the other party, but now it's at sea. Such a devil fruit user is simply a living target. As long as his ship is sunk into the sea, then this devil fruit user will be a lamb to be slaughtered. If you can kill the opponent, you will definitely get a good treasure. After all, he even has devil fruit powers. If you're lucky, you might even be able to get a devil fruit. Shouted excitedly. Keep shooting me. At this time, I observed that the boat on the opposite side wanted to turn around and run away. The pirates became even more excited when they heard this. Yes, Captain Evil Tiger. There is the Evil Dragon pirates in the East China Sea, and they are the Evil Tiger pirates. At this time, Usopp had already controlled the Mary to turn around and prepare to run away. But I saw the other party catching up again, and they kept firing. Fortunately, those shells hit the sea on both sides and only caused huge waves. At this moment, Luffy spoke. Usopp, what are you doing? Sail the boat to meet us. Since the other party is attacking us, watch me beat them away one by one. Being attacked all the time, he became angry. These guys are the culprits that prevented Nami from joining their pirate group. They are all evil pirates. Usopp was a little surprised, but after thinking about it, this might be the only solution. The opponent kept chasing him and kept firing. At the moment, the speed of the melee is not enough to get rid of them. Sooner or later there will be a tough battle. Although I have few companions, they all have good skills. Luffy even defeated the great pirate named Krieg. It is said that his bounty was 17 million belly. The group of pirates in front of them cannot be as powerful as Krieg. So he immediately turned the ship around. At the same time, he reminded. Be careful to block the cannonballs fired by the other party. I don't want the melee given to me by Kaya to be blown up. Luffy was unhappy after hearing this. The melee belongs to me, and I am the captain. You can just sail the boat, and I will stop those cannonballs. Zoro, Sanji, when the two ships get closer, come with me and beat these guys away. Sanji lit a cigarette and looked at the pirates with cold eyes. Don't worry, I will let these pirates taste my whip legs. He was not happy to be chased and attacked like this. Not to mention Zoro. Let these guys honestly become stepping stones to progress. Another skill to improve in swordsmanship is of course actual combat, especially against vicious pirates. He actually hoped that the other party would be more capable. The captain of the Evil Tiger pirates discovered that the fleeing pirates had turned the ship around, and it was obvious that he wanted to fight to the death. But he became more and more excited. Don't spare me any artillery shells, just blast them all. This is simply asking for death. The cannonballs alone are enough to kill them. At this time, he also caught a glimpse of a small boat approaching at great speed. Right at the center where the two pirate ships meet. He immediately became alert. Could this be the companion of the pirate ship ahead? Otherwise, how could someone sail a small boat alone on the sea? The more I think about it, the more likely it is. Immediately order the men on the ship. Pull out your gun immediately and let me shoot the people on that boat. As he spoke, he immediately pointed to the boat. Immediately, someone listened to the captain's words, pulled out the pistol in his hand, and immediately shot 4 or 5 pistols at the young man in white. The boy in white just looked at these people with cold eyes, his hands in his pockets, his face expressionless. A moment later, bullets exploded in front of him. And he was unscathed. The evil tiger pirates were a little surprised when they saw this scene. Is this guy another devil fruit user? Otherwise, how could he be blocked in the form of this air wall? This was even more surprising to him than the one where his body expanded into a round ball just now. He felt a little bad in his heart. It seemed that he shouldn't mess with this pirate group. He felt that he could still handle the Straw Hat Luffy just now. After all, it was just a huge body, so what's the big deal? His machete is not a fool's errand, and if he cuts it down, the opponent will only be a living target. But this person was a bit cold, and even made him feel strong fear. At the same time, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates also saw this strange scene. He actually blocked the pirate's pistol attack on him out of thin air. It's like there is a layer of magical energy blocking you. Blocked those bullet attacks. Straw Hat Luffy even exclaimed. What kind of magical ability is this? This is simply more magical than my rubber fruit ability. In his eyes, he has already determined that the other party has eaten a devil fruit, otherwise he would not have such magical abilities. Compared with the other party's ability, that means the other party is more handsome. My own rubber fruit ability can also withstand bullets, but my body always seems to be pierced and then bounce back. But with the opponent's ability, bullets can't touch his body at all. There is no doubt that he is more handsome. He was a little excited. Such a person, I want to invite him to join the Straw Hat Pirates. Originally, there were 5 members of the Straw Hat Pirates, but after Nami left, the number became 4. This is really a bit small for a pirate group. After Nami left, there was even less vitality. And such a powerful partner is certainly what he needs. At this time, Usopp looked at the extremely indifferent young man and couldn't help but feel a bit familiar. I've obviously never seen this guy before, but I seem to have some impression of him. He lowered his head and thought. Where did you get the impression of this young man? Zoro, on the other hand, looked at the young man on the boat in the distance in surprise. Said slowly. This boy is exactly the brother that the little girl Minato mentioned. He has short black hair, green moles under his eyes, white clothes, and a saber on his waist. The name is Ulquiorra. This is exactly the opponent he wants to pursue. I didn't expect to meet him here. What a blessing. It's bound to be a good duel. Only by defeating these powerful opponents can he make progress and become the world's greatest swordsman. Hawkeye is really terrifying. He is no match for him now, so he can only defeat some opponents who are stronger than him. In his eyes, the little girl's brother is a very suitable opponent. In his eyes, although the opponent can use flying slashes to kill Poseidons, they are still far from the level of Hawkeye. It must be an opponent that suits you. He is not afraid that the opponent is stronger than him. Only by competing with stronger people in swordsmanship can he make progress. When Luffy heard Zoro's words, he was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, this guy turned out to be the little girl's brother, and he instantly became a little frustrated. The little girl once said that the other brother didn't like being a pirate very much. I wonder if this person will be willing to accept the invitation. After worrying for a while, he decided to give it a try later. At this time, Ulquiorra slowly pulled out his sword and swung it towards the pirate ship attacking him. A terrifying green slash was swung in the direction of the knife, attacking the pirate ship. In an instant, the ship was split into 2 halves. Together with the pirate captain who ordered the attack on him. Of course he saw the skull flag, of course these people were pirates. Since they are attacking themselves, it is natural for them to eliminate them themselves. At this time, the people on the other pirate ships were frightened, and their faces were distorted. This terrifying guy actually split the captain in 2. This is too powerful, isn't it? Who is this? How could it be possible to do such a thing? You must know that the captain of their evil tiger pirates is also well known in the East China Sea. Even though he is not as powerful as Captain Aaron of the Dragon Pirates, he is not weak in terms of strength. When did such a terrifying person appear in a place like the East China Sea? Before they could pursue the truth, the pirate ship had split into two and the cabin was filled with water. It even started to sink. All the pirates were panicked. What should I do? The boat has taken on water. It's broken into two parts and can't be repaired at all. Everyone, let's dive, and get as much treasure as you can, and swim away quickly. At this time they were still thinking about the treasure on the ship. As long as these treasures are there, they can still find a place to live a happy life. When the Straw Hats saw this scene, their mouths opened wide and they were shocked. Luffy's eyes even shone. Is this the brother that the little girl said can kill Poseidons with flying slashes? It's too strong. Since he can kill Poseidons with his sword, he can naturally kill a pirate ship with his sword. In terms of size and sturdiness, the Poseidon type is of course larger and more defensive. Wooden pirate ships are still incomparable. This guy is really handsome as Luffy. He really wants to invite such a powerful guy to join his pirate group, so that he can definitely become his strong fighting partner. Even Sanji looked surprised. This man is really strong. They don't look like people from the East China Sea. Then he frowned and looked at Zoro aside, asking in disbelief. Hey, you guy, after seeing such a terrifying blow, are you still interested in a duel? You don't think you can defeat such an opponent, do you? Usopp also looked at Zoro in disbelief. This is an opponent that is impossible to defeat. I'll take care of Captain Evil Tiger with one strike. I remember the pirate flag above. There was a tiger painted on it. It was the famous Tiger Pirates. The strong man who was just split into two must be the captain, and he was killed with a knife. Quote. It was a bit of a miserable death. Zoro, I don't want you to be like this. After saying this, he felt fear in his heart. Zoro was a little frightened when he said this. He remembered what the little girl Minato said. His brother was indeed a bit cruel, but he shook his head and said. If I choose to back down here, I will never be a great swordsman again. Don't worry, I will choose to duel with him alone, and I will never hurt you. Luffy was very unhappy when he heard what he said. Zoro, don't say that, don't say anything about not being implicated or not. Since you are my partner, you can just go ahead and fight. Don't worry about us. He was a little scared. If Zoro left again, he would become a three-person pirate team. It felt like he was getting further and further away from fulfilling his promise with red-haired Shanks. Zoro heard what he said. I was very satisfied. He originally joined the pirate group because being a pirate would not hinder his pursuit of the world's greatest swordsman. In that case, I will fight with the opponent. Zoro made up his mind and his momentum suddenly became high. Usopp wanted to say something, but looking at Zoro's rising momentum, he didn't know what to say. I could only pray in my heart that Minato's brother wouldn't be too cruel. Don't do what the little girl said about Kenpachi, and don't show any mercy at all. And just when he was thinking this, suddenly, he saw the boy in white waving the saber in his hand again. Then another terrifying green slash struck directly at those on the sea who wanted to swim away. In an instant, those people were killed with a knife. There were screams of horror and pain in the sea, and of course the sea was stained red with blood. Usopp was shocked when he saw this scene, it was so cruel. This is too scary, Zoro, it's better not to challenge him. Such a scene is really frightening, so many pirates were killed directly by this man. It scared the living daylights out of him. If Zoro challenges the opponent, the consequences will be terrible. I didn't expect that I would encounter such a terrifying person as soon as I went to sea. Being a pirate is really a hard road. Even Sanji frowned. Such a cruel person, even those who fell into the water would not be spared. Luffy looked at the other person a little regretfully. At this time, he had given up the idea of inviting the other party to join his pirate group. This person is really cruel and completely unsuitable to be my partner. He thought of red-haired Shanks. He is obviously a very powerful person, but he will not be so cruel if he is bullied. This is the person he wants to be. It was obvious that this boy was not such a person. Zoro was also surprised. This guy is so vicious. There is probably no way for these pirates to survive. Although he was once a pirate hunter, he also killed pirates. But he would only kill those who had bounties on their heads, and other than that, he would just chop and injure others. There was no pursuit of those who escaped. Such a person is really too cold. Even he was hesitant to fight with it. As I thought before, he is not a fool and knows that he cannot fight to the death with someone who is invincible. If he dies, then what dreams are there? At least the guy in front of him is not something he can fight against now. Kill the pirate ship with one strike, and kill the remaining pirates with one strike. This is something he cannot do. After a battle with Hawkeye, he understood his own weakness. I know I shouldn't be so impulsive. At this time, the melee had stopped next to the small boat. Ulquiorra looked at them coldly. Of course, when he got rid of those pirates before, it was to fulfill his father's order and he didn't want to know that his family members were still alive in the world. If you don't take action, that's it. Once you take action, you have to clean it up. Those pirates just killed them without any serious problems. And now another pirate ship is approaching. Now that they saw the scene of them killing pirates, of course they couldn't let the other party leak their information to the sea. He raised the sword above his head, preparing to strike again to kill the opponent. Everyone in the Straw Hats who saw this scene was frightened. This guy actually did something to them. What a terrifying and cruel guy. Luffy was surprised. I just feel cold in my heart. Even his rubber fruit power couldn't stop such a terrifying slash. After all, the rubber fruit is most afraid of slashes and will definitely cut its own body open. Then we can only avoid it. But under his feet was the melee, and the opponent's slashing attack was so powerful that it would definitely cut the melee in half. You must know that the pirate ship is also his good partner. Without the pirate ship, he can't go anywhere. He didn't want his pirate ship to be cut off, he said angrily. Stop it. Of course Ulquiorra didn't stop, the knife in his hand was already halfway swung. Why should these people tell him to stop? They are just pirates. It was too late to escape. The blame is that they came too close, otherwise, they could have been spared. After all, I just looked at it from a distance and didn't know who specifically did it. Naturally, it didn't count as violating my father's prohibition, but it was too late now. Usopp's face turned pale with fear. This guy has no intention of stopping. Sanji also had a look of fear on his face. He couldn't block the opponent's attack, so he blocked it with his own legs. Are you kidding? His leg will definitely be broken. Will he also become a person with a broken leg? Zoro looked solemn. Ulquiorra, stop it. His words really made Ulquiorra stop. Zoro breathed a sigh of relief, and the other party stopped what he was doing, so there was still something to play. Usopp, Sanji and Luffy all breathed a sigh of relief and just stopped. Zoro's words worked wonders. Ulquiorra looked at them impassively. You actually know his name. No one overseas probably knows him, because he has never told anyone else. Then there is only one possibility, it was his sister who told the other party, or it was Orochimaru. They must have met before. He jumped directly from the boat to Luffy's Mary, looking at the guy with short green hair indifferently. Where did you hear my name? At this time, he had sheathed his sword, put his hands in his pockets, and looked at the other person quietly. But even like this person still puts great pressure on the Straw Hats. Luffy felt that this person was completely unsuitable to be a companion. He was too cold. The pirate group should be happy. Usopp felt very powerful when he saw this man. Even talking to the other person was a taxing thought. And Sanji had no reason to speak, as the other party was not a beauty. Only Zoro looked at the other party with forced composure. I heard that from your sister. She once mentioned that she had a brother named Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra looked at him indifferently upon hearing this. As expected, since she is a younger sister, that's just right. You can go back after finding your sister. As for Orochimaru, let him go back and be punished later. His sister is still too naive, and as for Orochimaru, there are really very few people who can harm him in this sea. So don't worry. He asked slowly. Where is she now? Seeing that the boy in white didn't take action, Usopp felt relieved immediately and said quickly. She should be in Kokoja village, and she should be staying with Nami now. We have a good relationship with her, so you won't take action against us, right? Having seen his terrifying strength and his merciless killing of those pirates, Usopp was really scared. This man's strength is unpredictable. It was obviously not something that his companions could resist, let alone himself. His legs were shaking before. Now it is best to hope that for the sake of his sister, he will not take action against them. Sanji knows the reason why Usopp said this, so it's better not to say anything now. Ulquiorra looked at him indifferently. If the other party knew his sister, he would be really embarrassed to deal with them. After all, his sister is still very favored by her father in the family. Said indifferently. Don't tell anyone about meeting me. Also, where is Kokoja village? Usopp completely relaxed after hearing this, and quickly pointed in the direction of Koko West village. Kokoyashi village is in that direction. You can reach it by going straight. The direction of going out to sea was naturally designated by him, so his direction was pretty much the same. When Ulquiorra heard this, he was about to turn around and leave. Now that he heard the news about his sister, he felt relieved. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Can I have a swordsmanship contest with you? Upon hearing this, Ulquiorra turned his head and looked at the man with green hair who made the sound. This reminded him of the world's best swordsman whom he had just destroyed. The person in front of him looked much weaker than that person, he said coldly. You are no match for me, you are too weak. Zoro's face turned a little pale when he heard this. During this time, the second person felt that he was weak. But this was a naked fact, and it also dealt a huge psychological blow to him. Usopp even shouted quickly. Zoro, what are you talking about? Don't you know this man is very strong? How could you be your opponent? It's better not to delay others and let them leave quickly. It's not that he's attacking his teammates, it's that this person is too dangerous. The opponent wields a terrifying flying slash, which can destroy the Mary with one blow. There is no place for the opponent to fight here. This is the sea. Sanji was also speechless about Zoro's behavior. It's best not to provoke such a dangerous guy. This is the most reliable guy that the little girl Minato said. As for Aizen and Kenpachi, they are probably even more terrifying guys. He is no longer a young man who is ignorant of the world. At the sea restaurant Baratie, you can often hear news about the sea, including pirates and marines. But I have never heard of such a terrifying guy. He sighed deeply in his heart, not knowing where these guys came from. Just now, this guy had explicitly forbidden them not to leak it out. Maybe it was for this reason that it was not known to everyone. Otherwise, how could such a strong strength not be famous in the East China Sea? Suddenly, he thought with horror that maybe it wasn't that no one saw them, but that the guys who saw them had been killed. No wonder no news about these people has spread. The Straw Hat Pirates should be lucky right now. Lucky to know that little girl, otherwise they would be buried in the sea today. But Luffy didn't agree with Usopp's words. Since it is impossible for this guy to join his pirate group, then Zoro is the swordsman of their pirate group, and of course his swordsman must be the strongest in the world. How can you improve yourself if you don't challenge a strong person when you meet him? He shouted loudly. Usopp, stop talking, let Zoro challenge. Usopp felt helpless. Why did Luffy say such a thing without looking at who his opponent was? Zoro strengthened his thoughts after hearing Luffy's words. I want to challenge you. Even if I'm not my opponent, I still want to know the gap between the two sides. This is what he is thinking at the moment. The gap between him and Hawkeye meant that he couldn't see the other person's figure, but this boy wouldn't have the same gap. Ulquiorra's face was expressionless. Is there a gap? To be honest, the gap between the two sides is really the difference between heaven and earth. Okay, I will let you see the difference. Just consider it as the reward for telling my sister the news. Without this news, looking for his sister would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. The sea is so big. If the group of people in front of you can tell me the news, then you should satisfy the other party's wishes. He slowly drew out the sword he just had. Take action. Zoro saw this and pulled out Wado Ikimonji. Now he only has one sword. The other two knives before were broken in the collision with Hawkeye, and only one of the 21 skills of this big sharp knife can resist Hawkeye's black knife. As soon as his eyes were focused, he continuously swung his knife to attack the boy in white. The attack was like a violent storm, obviously more powerful than the previous offensive. But his expression was one of surprise. Not happy at all. His attack was completely blocked by the opponent, his face was expressionless, his face was not even red, his heart was not beating, he looked very relaxed. This duel seemed like facing the world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye. Could it be that this young man has swordsmanship comparable to that of the world's greatest swordsman? Or is it that the gap between oneself and the other party is really too big, and one cannot see the difference between the other party and Hawkeye at all? But no matter which one it is, it shows that the gap between oneself and the other party is too huge. But even so, Zoro did not stop attacking, and still launched a sharp attack, even sharper than before. At least he has to make some progress, at least make the opponent take a step back, and he will win. But no matter how sharp his attacks were, they were all blocked one by one. The three people watching the battle were all surprised. Minato's older brother Ulquiorra is just too strong. Now they just hope that this person can maintain such defense and let Zoro retreat. Otherwise, Zoro would definitely be seriously injured. If he had unleashed the terrifying slashes from before, even the melee might not have been spared. Sanji couldn't even understand how there could be such a terrifying young man in the sea, who was much stronger than the reformed brothers in his family. Facing Zoro's attack, he didn't even take a step back. When Zoro faced Hawkeye, he could at least make Hawkeye take a few steps back. Even Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hats, had a solemn look on his face. This person is really scary. He saw no chance of Zoro winning. It's a pity that such a person cannot be his partner. Of course, he doesn't want the other party to join. Because they are much stronger than him, the captain. After a burst of attacks, Zoro immediately stopped attacking. I'm a little tired, especially because the wound from the previous fight with Eagle Eye has begun to crack. Such a serious injury cannot be healed in a few days. If it collapses again, the consequences will be too serious. Of course, the most important thing is that the opponent is too strong. He simply has no ability to launch an attack that can hurt the opponent. Even if you attack with all your strength, you won't be able to test the depth of your opponent at all. The other party has always looked calm. It made him deeply powerless. The gap between the two sides was really too big. I lost. After saying that, he felt a little bitter in his heart. There was such a terrifying young man on the sea. How can I fulfill my agreement with Kuina? Becoming the world's greatest swordsman is probably just a wishful thinking. Forget it about Hawkeye. After all, he is older than him and has reached the pinnacle of the world, but he is still young. As long as he is willing to endure hardship, it may be okay. And what's going on with this young man now? Although he was younger than himself, his swordsmanship was already so terrifying that he couldn't even see the opponent's back. I am really too weak, how can I catch up with such a person? Since he wants to fulfill his agreement with Kuina, of course he must become the true world's greatest swordsman. Not only did he have to defeat Hawkeye, he also had to defeat this person. Otherwise it's not done. The more I thought about it, the more disappointed and scared I became, afraid that I would not be able to fulfill the promise I made with Kuina. Ulquiorra showed no expression when he heard his words of surrender. He turned around and jumped back into his boat, then controlled the boat in the direction that the guy with the long nose pointed just now and left. At this moment, Zoro lowered his head expressionlessly, feeling extremely disappointed in his heart. When Usopp saw Zoro like this, he didn't know what to say to comfort him. Even he, who is not a grandmaster in swordsmanship, knows the huge gap between the two. How can you comfort yourself then? After all, he also knows that Zoro is a guy who pursues the pinnacle of swordsmanship. He is very determined and is not even afraid of death. I'm afraid it's been a huge blow now. Can you tell Zoro that as long as he works hard, he will definitely win? Impossible. Some geniuses just can't be defeated no matter how hard they try. Even Sanji felt a little sympathetic to Zoro. He knew why the other party was so hit. It was because he had encountered setbacks and could not see hope. Such terrifying guys are very rare even in the New World in the second half of the Grand Line. I'm afraid there is no one who can compare with him in the first half. Perhaps only those strong men behind the Great Channel have a little hope. Then the gap between Zoro and the other party is unimaginable. However, he felt that if such a person could survive a blow, the harder he was hit, the stronger he would be, but that was not necessarily true. Luffy looked at Zoro's completely lost expression and roared angrily. Zoro, don't look silent. I believe you will become a stronger swordsman than him in the future. After all, you want to become a member of One Piece. He didn't want to see such a listless Zoro, that wouldn't be the kind of partner he wanted. Zoro slowly raised his head and looked at Luffy, really envious of Luffy's appearance. I don't understand the gap between myself and that boy at all. But when I think about Luffy actually becoming One Piece. The first time he heard this sentence, he thought it was a joke, it was simply a fantasy. The emergence of One Piece in a small East China Sea is already a miracle among miracles. You must know that pirates in the East China Sea are despised by pirates in other seas and are considered the weakest sea. Maybe he hadn't realized it before, but when he met Hawkeye and the boy he just fought against, he knew the huge gap. They are so different and have no strength. How could Luffy become One Piece? But he is a little envious of this guy's spirit. Maybe he can work towards his goal with peace of mind without thinking so much. Thinking of this, he cheered up. It's true that I've been thinking about something lately. Were you hit? Or something? These are the reasons that have always hindered his progress. It's useless to think so much. You just need to keep honing your swordsmanship until you become the strongest in the world. Just like Luffy, it is useless to think too much, and even thinking too much may stop you from moving forward. Looking at Luffy. I will definitely become the world's greatest swordsman, just wait and see. After saying that, he walked towards the middle deck. There are his training tools, 4 barbell plates and 2 levers. Just pick it up and wave it, 100 pounds on each side. Luffy became happy seeing this. I don't know how Zoro suddenly cheered up, but that's fine. He didn't want to see a lifeless Zoro. Today's scene made him know how difficult it is to become One Piece, but this is what he wants to do. Just do it. Although he has been laughed at all the way, he is stubborn. Usopp sees a rejuvenated Zoro. Very reassuring. It's good that he wasn't hit, but I'm afraid that he will collapse and give up his swordsmanship. Then he would lose a powerful partner. Sanji took a puff of cigarette, maybe Luffy's words made Zoro figure it out. That's fine too. Let's give them a feast tonight. Another day passed. Nami took Nokigao and Minato to an ordinary island in the East China Sea. Shimotsuki village is naturally located in this place. The 3 of them came here in a boat. Nami looked at the island. According to the map, it should be here. Minato said happily. Now that we're here, we should be able to find Brother Snake. Sister Nami is so awesome. The unfamiliar environment made her very curious. The world outside is really big. Even Nokigao admired this sister a little. Nami found Shimotsuki village so easily. This is just an ordinary island. It shouldn't be famous, at least she hasn't heard of it. Nami explained. Actually, there is a famous Ishin Kendo gym here, and there are quite a lot of apprentices. People from many places come here to learn Kendo, so it's quite easy to find this place. If it were really a village on an unknown island, I think it would be difficult to find it. Nokigao still felt that Nami was used to traveling outside and could find out this information. Then hurry up and find Brother Snake from Minato. I don't know if he has come to this island. Nami said calmly. You have to go to the island to see it yourself to know this. I heard that her brother was going to resurrect Kuina, so I asked people who had come here to learn Kendo. Kuina was the biological daughter of the owner of the Kendo gym. She was a Kendo genius, but she died 10 years ago. Quote. This made her feel a little regretful. Didn't it mean that he died when he was a child? He may have died with only ashes left. Can such a person really be resurrected? This seems to be Zoro's hometown. This is what she heard Luffy say. It seems that Kuina is still Zoro's companion and the one Zoro wants to surpass. Minato was unhappy and actually questioned Brother Snake. Brother Snake can definitely do it. Although I haven't seen it before, but since Brother Snake is here, it must be okay. Nami and Nokigao were both stunned by these solemn words. We have already seen Minato's special ability, the ability to move instantly. It seems that not many people can do it on the sea. Nami also asked Minato how he did this, but Minato still didn't want to tell him at first. But after thinking about it, Sister Nami will be my baby mother in the future, so I revealed it. This is ninjutsu. Nokigao said slowly. It would be great if you can be resurrected. Then find your brother Snake quickly and return to your family island. She had already made up her mind, even if it meant becoming Minato's baby mother and marrying his father. She also wants to resurrect Belmere, who saved her and Nami. Now that I have the opportunity to repay her, there is no need to hesitate. It can also fill the hole in your heart and make up for the regrets in your life. So the three of them set off immediately, and Nami asked the passers-by they met for the direction of the Ishin Kendo gym. Then he left immediately. The three of them entered the Ishin Kendo gym smoothly. At this moment, there are no students training in the Ishin Kendo hall. It must be the weekend. They were received by an old man wearing glasses, a ponytail, and a brown kimono. He looked at these people with kind eyes and a smile. What brought you here? The two young women and the little girl probably came to him to learn swordsmanship. After all, he has really few female disciples. Girls basically cannot endure the hardship of learning kendo. He felt a little sad. If his daughter Kuina was still alive, she would be this old. Alas, I didn't expect such an accident to happen. I actually fell down the stairs and died. It's so unpredictable. Minato asked first. Did you see a long-haired boy a little older than me come here? Koshiro shook his head. I haven't seen it. Is he also here to learn swordsmanship? Minato shook his head. No, Grandpa, he is here to resurrect. Before he could finish speaking, Nami covered his mouth. Why does this Minato even say such things? Of course this kind of thing cannot be said. Who would believe such a thing? It is more likely to anger the old man. After all, his daughters are dead. On the sea, resurrection is definitely impossible. If she hadn't seen Minato's methods, she wouldn't have believed it. She said quickly. Actually, I am Zoro's companion. I once heard that Kuina was her companion, but she died when she was young. Koshiro's kind face slowly disappeared. His face was expressionless because he heard what the little girl said about resurrection. I also thought of what the orange-haired woman in front of me said about Kuina. Resurrection of Kuina. I don't believe it at all. How is this possible? I don't care about this anymore. But he said with a smile. I haven't seen the long-haired boy, and no strangers have been here recently. You are Zoro's companion. What is Zoro doing now? Are you still continuing to be a bounty hunter? He had heard the news before that this guy Zoro is now a well-known bounty hunter in the East China Sea. He naturally knew the agreement he made with his daughter, which was that one of them would become the world's greatest swordsman. That's why Zoro becomes a bounty hunter, hunting evil pirates and enhancing his strength and sword skills. Zoro will definitely become a very powerful swordsman in the future. Nami breathed a sigh of relief and saw that the other party did not think deeply about the word resurrection. Before, I was a pirate on the ship with Zoro, but now I have separated from the pirate group. This time I have time to come and pay homage to his former companion. Where is her grave? Koshiro was a little surprised. Did this guy Zoro actually become a pirate? He wasn't going to care anymore. When you are a pirate, you should not be the kind of pirate who burns, kills, and loots. I should probably pursue kendo. That's it. Look at Nami. Since you want to pay homage to Kuina, her grave is on the back mountain. Kuina's father Koshiro learned the location of Kuina's grave. The three of Nami said goodbye to Koshiro and walked towards the back mountain cemetery. Only by looking at Kuina's grave to see if it has been touched can we know whether Orochimaru has been there. Perhaps Koshiro moved Kuina's grave without alerting him. She asked Minato how the Earth reincarnation resurrected people. This kind of thing is not simple at first glance, and it should require the preparation of some special materials. Minato has surpassed Brother Snake, and Brother Snake hasn't used it much, but he still knows the method. Brother Snake told her that she would use something dirty, as well as a container to hold the soul. The most important thing is the body of the deceased, even the ashes. So just go to Kuina's grave and see if anyone has touched it, and you will know if Orochimaru has been there. Normally no one would touch the cemetery. If it had moved, it was probably Minato's snake brother. In that case, Nami might have to find another way to help Minato get home. And Minato no longer remembers the location of his home. So it's better to find her snake brother. On the way, Minato looked at Nami curiously. Why don't you tell Grandpa the truth? I see that Grandpa looks kind and kind. If he could see his daughter again, he would be very happy, right? Nami explained helplessly. If I could see my daughter, I would definitely be happy. But if we tell him like this, he won't believe it, and he will even stop us. It's best to tell Kuina after resurrecting her. The reincarnation of the dirty land requires Kuina's body, so the tomb must be disturbed. I believe no father would allow this. In fact, she and Nakigo also wanted to see if this Orochimaru could resurrect Kuina. Because this is related to whether their mother Belmir can be resurrected. Minato understood a little after hearing this. Then wait until Kuina is resurrected. However, the reincarnation of the earth is not a true resurrection. Only a father can. About 10 minutes later, the three of them climbed to the back mountain. In an open space on the mountain, a tombstone and a small hill were found. It says the tomb of my beloved daughter Kuina. It seems this is it. Nami immediately checked the situation around him. Finding no sign that the soil had been disturbed meant that Orochimaru had never been here at all. Maybe his brother Minato was just a kid and couldn't find his way. It's very possible, Nami asked. Minato, how old is your brother? She looks like a 10-year-old. A head taller than me. Nami was a little dumbfounded. Isn't this just a child? Minato, is it possible that your brother also doesn't know the way? Could he be lost in the sea? Although the strength is very strong, there is no need to worry about encountering danger, but in this case, it will be difficult to find this place in the year of the monkey and the month of the horse. It may be a few days if you are lucky, or it may be several months if you are not lucky. Nuo Chigao also looked dumbfounded. If this were the case, she might have to wait a long time, and her enthusiasm for resurrecting her mother had faded a bit. She had heard that only by finding the other person's father could he truly be resurrected. Of course she wanted to see her mother as soon as possible and complete this matter as soon as possible. Minato shook his head and said. Probably not. Brother Snake seems to be very shrewd and he doesn't know the way. After hearing this, Nami relaxed a little. Minato was only 5 or 6 years old, while her brother was 10 years old. Of course, it cannot be calculated according to normal age. Other 10-year-old children may not understand anything. He may not even know how to go to sea, but if he is Minato's brother, he should still be able to find Shimotsuki village. Then let's wait here for a while. Nokigao nodded in agreement. Apart from this, there is no other better way. One day later, a small boat slowly approached the shore on the sea. On it is a young man with long black hair, long golden pupils, wearing a kimono, and a purple sash tied around his waist. After docking the boat firmly on the shore, muttered to himself. According to the map, this should be the location of Shimotsuki village, and the Isshin Kendo gym should be here. I was very happy. It took me a few days to finally find this place. All that's left to do next is to find Kuina's grave. As long as part of her body is obtained, even just her ashes, she can be resurrected. Then take it back to your father. When his father is happy, he will definitely give him Mangekyo Sharingan, even Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This is what he wanted from his heart. Because his other brother Itachi possesses the Mangekyo Sharingan. During the fight between himself and the other party said something that shocked him deeply. None of your techniques will work in front of my eyes. Of course he was dissatisfied when he heard this. Then he used many ninjutsu to defeat Itachi, but all were seen through without exception. Itachi was right. With the ninjutsu he can now use, he probably has no chance of defeating Itachi. Mangekyo Sharingan is really awesome. He really wanted to have a pair. In this case, his strength must have improved dramatically. Since Mangekyo Sharingan can see through ninjutsu, he may be able to use this to develop more powerful ninjutsu. After thinking about it, he walked towards the nearby village. Is there any cemetery near here? As long as you know that, you can go find it. Of course he wouldn't go to Koshiro, Kuina's father. After all, he wanted to dig the other party's daughter's grave. As a father, how could you allow this to happen? It must be impossible. He walked along the path towards the center of the island. Soon we arrived at a village. Wandering around, I was ready to ask the people here. But something happened that surprised him. I couldn't help but rub my eyes. How could this happen? Isn't that little girl with golden hair her sister Minato? Why are you here? He panicked for a moment. This guy couldn't have followed him out. Minato looked for him when he came out before, but he didn't take her with him at all. I came out this time to do business, so why did I bring an oil bottle with me? Thanks for watching, please subscribe and support our channel.